right? So Bremen Research Group in France, based on the argon criterion, they did experiments on carbon manganese steel and came up with this semi-empirical relationship for void nucleation, where the manganese sulfide inclusion particles are there in the iron matrix, and the mean stress, the von Mises equivalent stress, and the yield strength of the material are there, and there is an experimental fitting constant C. Goods and Brown, another group. We told you that there are several models, right, for void nucleation. So Goods and Brown, they used a dislocation model for void nucleation at the sub-micron particles, right? Dislocation model. Again, I told you, right, I am repeating it myself several times, that we are discussing the material science background of fracture. So you remember in your materials course, where you are in the chapter of defects at the microscopic level, then we are talking of dislocations and grain boundaries and other things. So you know what is a dislocation, right? It is some form of a flaw in a material, and when you load the material and the material starts to deform plastically, then the dislocations also move, and once the dislocation hits a grain boundary, it stops. So a grain boundary resists the movement of the dislocation, which means it resists the deformation of the material. So now if you apply more load, some other dislocation starts to move, and then it comes to the same grain boundary where the previous dislocation had stopped. So now this is a dislocation pile up. And as you keep on deforming and applying more and more load and stress, more and more dislocations pile up, and there is a big resistance to further material deformation. So grain boundaries and the combination of dislocation pile up at the grain boundaries serves as a strength mechanism, because it makes further deformation more difficult. So this is a very brief summary of your dislocation in the crystal level theory. So Goods and Brown are using dislocation model. Dislocations near the particle, there is an impurity particle or a second phase particle. So dislocations near the particle elevate the stress, increase the stress at the interface by this following amount, right? The particle is there, so at the particle there is already stress concentration because it is a particle, remember, right? And if there is a dislocation near it, there is a flaw near this small particle. So this will increase the stress further. So the delta sigma, the change in the stress, right? The amount by which the dislocation near the particle increases the stress is delta sigma. This is 5.4 alpha mu root epsilon 1 b upon r. Alpha is a constant that ranges from 0.14 to 0.33. Mu here is the shear modulus. In some other books, it will be capital G, the shear modulus of the material. Here, mu is not coefficient of friction, it is the shear modulus of the material. Epsilon 1, of course, if sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3 are the principal stresses, epsilon 1, epsilon 2, epsilon 3 are the principal strains. So epsilon 1 is the maximum remote normal strain, right? Maximum principal strain. A small b is the magnitude of the Burger's vector. Remember, when we were doing material science at the crystal level, defects and so on, then dislocations and other things were defined by the size of the Burger's vector. And this small r is the particle radius. The particle, the impurity particle or the second phase particle. So now again, right, we have not shown you the derivation at all. In the previous, we at least we did not give you the derivation there also, but we explained mean stress and so on. So here Goods and Brown group did a lot of work and based on dislocations, because this includes the Burger's vector of the dislocations, right? So now this is the equation. So this is directly the equation, that the change in stress or the increase in stress that happens because there is a dislocation near the impurity particle is this much, delta sigma d, right? And sigma d is the dislocation stress. The total maximum interface stress, the total maximum interface stress is the maximum principal stress plus this, right? So at the interface where there is the particle and the dislocation, there is already sigma 1 there, right? Because there is a remote stress sigma, and because of that the principal stresses are there. So the maximum remote stress is sigma 1 already, right? Sigma 1 already, plus this increase in stress is happening because of the existence of dislocation near the particle. So the total stress is sigma 1, the maximum remote principal stress, plus delta sigma d. Void nucleation occurs when the sum of these stresses reaches a critical value, right? When, right, you have sigma 1 and you have delta sigma d. So under certain types of dislocations or under certain types of combinations of dislocation in the particle, this sigma 1 plus delta sigma d will become more than the critical required for sudden failure. So this, right, no, sorry, not sudden failure, for void nucleation, that there was no void before, but when the sum of sigma 1 plus delta sigma d, this reaches more than a critical value, then a void will nucleate, a flaw will be created there. So the Goods and Brown dislocation model, local stress concentration increases with decreasing particle size. Do you understand that? You see, this is the equation. This is the radius of the impurity particle. So if this radius is smaller, the whole value increases because this is in the denominator, right? So the local stress concentration increases with decreasing particle size, right? So it means that void nucleation is more difficult with larger particles, isn't it? Because void will nucleate, void will start when this stress near the particle reaches a critical value, high value. This high value will be there when the particle size is small. So if the particle size is large, then nucleation will be difficult, right? So this is the theory, that based on this equation, this delta sigma will increase if the radius is small. So the total maximum stress will increase if the radius is small, and larger stress means easier nucleation. But if this particle size is large, then the total stress near the particle will be smaller, and void nucleation is more difficult with larger particles. The continuum models the previous equations apply to particles who have radius of more than 1 micron, micron, 10 raised to minus 6. So if the radius is more than 1 micron, then this theory applies. So that is continuum models. This implies that sigma c is independent of the particle size. Independent of the particle size. So we will see that more, right? That earlier models, right? These are now earlier models, continuum models, not this model. Earlier models where there was no particle radius in the equation, right? You know the previous equation, you can go back a few slides. So when there is no radius of the particle, inclusion particle, then it means that whatever the particle size, they predict the same thing. So that is what we are saying, that generally continuum models apply when the particles are more than 1 micron. But the problem is that because in those equations R is not there, therefore they are independent of the particle size. Now experimental observations differ from both continuum and dislocation models. Continuum models were the earlier ones, dislocation model is here. So experimental observations are not exactly replicated by either the continuum model or the dislocation model. Void nucleation tends to occur more readily at large particles. So this is now the experimental result. The continuum model is saying that whether the particle is large or small, the stress required to nucleate is this. And the continuum model says that void nucleation will be easier if the particle size is smaller. Again, these two theories are there for void nucleation from a material science viewpoint. So this is huge that both these, right, both these, the previous continuum model and the current dislocation model, must have taken a very long time, maybe several years, and a group of scientists working on it together with experimental verification and so on. So compared to no model for void nucleation, you have mathematical model. So even if there is 10% error, 15% error, even if there is 20% error, then at least 80% of the times you are right. Right? So this is huge rather than having hit and trial and no idea. But both the models are not telling you the reality. The reality by a lot of experiments is that if the particle, the impurity particle or the second phase particle is larger in size, then it will start to nucleate and break there and make a flaw more easily. This is experimental, right? So the continuum model saying that particle size does not matter. So it is not agreeing with reality. Reality says larger particle, easier to nucleate. Then the dislocation model says a smaller particle, easy to nucleate, again against reality. Reality says larger particle, easier to nucleate. With that, right, the first thing, right, that the stages are void nucleation, void growth, and finally coalescence and fracture. So the second two, void growth and coalescence, we talk about now. Once the voids form, whatever the theory, further plastic strain and hydrostatic stress cause the voids to grow and eventually coalesce, right? Remember, coalesce means they join together. We will show in the next two figures, which are scanning electron microscopic pictures called fractographs. Micrographs at the fractured surface or fracture. So you take a very large magnification microscopic picture when fracture is happening. It is, the field is called fractography, and the pictures are called fractographs. In figure 353, dimpled fracture surfaces, which are typical of ductile fracture. We have shown you this in the very early introduction, dimples. So micro void coalescence is there, and this figure is for a low carbon steel. 5.4 is a higher magnification of the same, where the inclusion is also showed where the void was nucleated. And in the next figure, 5.5, it is a schematic illustration of nucleation, growth and coalescence of microvoids leading to fracture, which is typical for ductile materials. So let us see the figures. We will come back to this slide later on after showing you the figures. So this 5.3 is scanning electron microscope fractograph, which shows ductile fracture in a low carbon steel. So you see lots and lots of dimples. Remember, we called it honeycomb, right? Like the hive of a honeybee where honey is produced. Lots and lots and lots of dimples. And then we will take enlargement of some region of it. So now we have enlarged it a lot amount. So you can see that if this void is there, it is there because there was an impurity or a second phase particle here. So high magnification fractograph of the steel ductile fracture surface. Note the spherical inclusion which nucleated the microvoid, So right, in the previous picture we showed you that it is a ductile fracture, so it has dimples, and here we are showing you then if you go in a lot of detail inside the dimple, then you will have this impurity particle there which caused it. This is now a schematic picture of the whole thing, and this we will hopefully continue next time. So, ma salama for today.